Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
So today's a bit of another throwback episode. I'm a student of history, and we have to look at where we came from. What was it like in the 80s and the 90s with cancer? You kind of just died. There was no support, no internet. This is even pre-AOL floppy disks, folks. But in 1981, an organization was started called ChemoCare, which you can look up. Eventually, they renamed themselves the Cancer Hope Network, but they're a 40-plus-year-old organization that's just been there for people in need of hope and help. And they're not a buddy platform in the sense that there are apps that match you with people like Tinder for Cancer or whatever. There isn't a Tinder for Cancer, but I mean metaphoric. But you call in, and they intake you with empathy. There are nurses and social workers, and they coach you, and they guide you, and they steward and shepherd you through all the shit you're dealing with. And joining me on the show today here in studio is Beth Blakey, the executive director, and Marielle McLeod, who is the program officer and a young adult cancer survivor herself. It's an honest, authentic, open, extemporaneous conversation with an organization I care very deeply about and I want you to know about, the Cancer Hope Network, online at cancerhopenetwork.org. Let's get started. So you can talk. I mean, you can orate and...
Today on the Matthew Zachary Show.
Is that what should I should call it that?
No.
Okay, just make sure the mic is like within like 2 fingers of your mouth, and move it to you. Like don't you don't have to lean in. Get comfy. Yeah.
I feel like you've maybe know me a little bit.
I've heard you talk.
Yeah, but I mean, to tell me not to lean in to actually make this, I would have, and I probably did. You probably saw me.
Yes.
Yes.
See, well done.
How embarrassing.
All right, so this is the show.
Okay.
All
We're
right,
on the
let's
air.
do it. Awesome.
Who are you? Why are you in my studio?
It depends on the day how you want me to answer that question.
Marielle McLeod. Did I say that right?
McLeod.
McLeod? It's EOD.
EOD, yeah. There's my husband, it's like some castle in Scotland.
Oh, it's a Scottish name?
For my husband, yes.
Yeah, well, clearly you are not from Scotland. Lady Latina right there. On the radio, they can't even see you.
Truly. Yeah, it's a Scottish name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, man.
What was your maiden name?
Santos.
I was going to say something Hispanic, definitely. Okay. Actually, all right, tell the white guy.
Okay.
I've never known the difference here. What's the difference between Hispanic and Latino?
Okay, so
Educate the white guy.
I'll educate the white guy. So Hispanic, truly, when it was first formed, it was used as a derogatory, like racist word to identify people of Mexican ethnicity.
Okay.
In time, Hispanic now is more for like Central America, Mexico. Yeah. And then, just Mexico in general. Latin America, our Latinos are us from the Caribbean, South America, all of that. The thing is that the Portuguese are in Latin America, Brazilians, but they're not considered Latin Americans. They're Brazilian. And then people from Spain are Spanish and they're not Latin. So there's like a conflict within our culture as to who is who. But I don't like being called Hispanic because I'm not Mexican.
Okay.
And
well
you can
done.
call me whatever you want, but...
Spicy?
And
Yeah.
where does the X fit in? Latin.
Oh,
Oh, is that a thing?
because-
Latinx?
Yes,
We're learning
because
so much today.
they're trying to make it like more gender neutral. Latinx is more gender neutral, so you don't have the A or the O to signify what gender.
Okay.
I get so mad because I'm like, quit shorting me of my femininity. I am a Latina woman. I'm not a Latinx.
So that's all stupid words that people make up.
Yeah, is the new concept in our everyday life, but it's what it is.
Well, it came in handy when you got sick because now you can help Latin people, Latin American people, Hispanic people.
Yes.
I'm not using words. Those people.
Absolutely.
Your people.
My people, yeah. But it's great though. However, when you go in and you do your daily check-in, every time you go to chemo and you have your little notepad, they always kept flipping me to white. And I'm like, no, I need y'all to change this. It was like a fight to get them to honor that Hispanic Latino box versus white. And I mean, I totally get it, race versus ethnicity, but you try to make yourself count in every lane possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beth's here too. Hi, Beth.
Hi.
She's hogging the show.
I know, but rightfully so.
Oh, why is that?
Because she's absolutely incredible. She's our program director and our director of advocacy. So she's got a voice and we want her to use it.
All right. Prepare for this.
Yes.
Please pronounce the college you went to.
Which one?
The one that sounds like it could be mispronounced.
Coker College?
Coker?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
It's a guy thing. I don't know.
It's okay though.
Who spells them?
I don't know.
Okay. All right.
We need to come up with our own college name.
Because I went to the singer, Joe Blanker. Like I say, Joe Cocker, right? Because that's his name, right? But I looked at the college. All right.
I know.
Speaking of college, do you know the show Avenue Q?
I do.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but I'm familiar with
All right.
it.
Well, one of the lyrics is, "What do I do with a BA in English? Where's my life going to be? 4 years of college and nothing but knowledge have earned me a useless degree, and you have a BA in English."
I do, in fact.
Yeah.
But I was told, and I believe this firmly, that a degree in English helps you learn how to think.
And do you think?
I do, all the time. I actually don't sleep because all I do is think. I probably should have majored in something else.
I hear that when you think, you are.
Perhaps.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I was not a philosophy major, though. I can't speak to that too
I also
much.
realized that we both got our start in the agency world.
I didn't know you got your start in the agency
I was
world.
looking at, I stalk LinkedIn for these shows, even though I know you guys. And,
Yeah.
and you were at Edelman.
I was. I started my career there right out of college. Actually, my internship in between my junior and senior year of college was at an agency doing public relations. And I had a great experience, but I hated public relations. So naturally, that was my first job.
Well done.
Hey, thanks.
I was at your competitor. I was at Omnicom.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if it was it around the same time or?
Yeah, it was, late 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're like just a tiny bit younger than me.
Just a hair.
Yeah, you're 39. I'm 50.
Exactly.
You look great. Yeah. Well done.
39.
Good genes.
Celebrating the anniversary of my 39th birthday.
You look good though, Beth. You look good.
Hey, thanks.
So I want to talk about how everyone knows I talk about history a lot. I'm a student of history. I talk about how there was life before today. Cancer advocacy or just general advocacy has been around a long time now, and that there are organizations that are here and there and they pop up and they're gone, but they're the ones that you don't know have been there for a million years outside of maybe the American Cancer Society. Everyone knows they've been around for, I don't know, since John Quincy Adams possibly did something with the government.
Yes.
But the Cancer Hope Network is one of those groups that you just didn't know were there for like 40 something years.
Yeah. I feel like we're the unsung hero at times sometimes, just because.
Agree.
Yeah. We were founded in 1981. So we've been around for a very long time. Our founder, Diane Paul, who is absolutely extraordinary, came up with this concept of one-on-one peer mentorship for people impacted by cancer when her patients, at that time she was an oncology nurse, they were coming to her saying, "Hey, has anybody survived that I can talk to? I'm going through this experience. I'm afraid. I'd like to talk to somebody who's lived to tell the tale." And there just was nothing like this out there at the time. And so she put this out there actually as a project of the junior league that she was trying to become a member of. And they kept us on. We were originally Chemo Care. And they kept us on as a project of the Junior League of Elizabeth Plainfield in New Jersey for about 4 or 5 years before we became our own nonprofit organization. And then eventually in the 1990s, we rebranded as Cancer Hope Network to better reflect who we were as an organization and really to kind of align with what the cancer landscape looked like at that time.
Yeah, and someone stole chemocare.org and .com. It's not you. If anyone Googles that, it's not you.
No,
Yeah,
it's
no,
not.
it's not us.
CancerHopeNetwork.org.
Yep.
Correct.
Very straightforward.
Correct.
So I always ask the question of nonprofit leaders, why are you a nonprofit leader?
Were you looking at me?
Yeah.
Yes, me.
I could look at both of you, but I'm looking at you, Beth.
So I became a nonprofit leader specifically at Cancer Hope Network because I had a personal experience caring for my mom when she was going through cancer. So she's a 2-time cancer survivor. And I think I've told you this story, and
Yeah, but the
probably
listeners
Marielle.
have no idea what
Probably
the hell you're
Marielle's
talking
heard
about.
this 1 or 2 times. When she received her second diagnosis and I was sitting in the hospital when she was going through surgery, I was making all kinds of bargains, as some of us do. And, I'm praying and crying and throwing all these bargains out into the universe saying,
Daniel Webster style?
Daniel Webster style.
Okay.
I am an English major,
Yes.
so yes.
I knew that.
Hey. And so I said, if my mom gets through this, I promise I will do something good with my life, and I will figure what that looks like, once she gets through. But I swear I will do it. My background had been in the nonprofit world. I worked in the arts prior to starting my own business when my children were little, and that business was doing nonprofit consulting work. I also did some work in the higher education field and also for early childhood education doing fundraising. And I was there for my mom, and I was supporting her through this experience and, making all these promises. And when I was there supporting her, my kids were real little. I was trying to run a business. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm all of these things. And I didn't have any support, and I didn't have access to support that was accessible to me in the way I needed it. Trying to do all those things, trying to balance all of those things, and go to a professional mental health specialist. It wasn't in the cards for me. I didn't have time during the day to go to a therapist. I didn't have time to go to a support group. I didn't have childcare. The first time around, my daughter was an infant. I couldn't leave her. I was a nursing mom. I didn't have the option. I don't live in a remote area, but the nearest opportunity for me to access those support services was a 30-minute drive each direction. So it wasn't what I needed when I needed it. So when my mom was sick and I'm going through this alone, I internalized everything I was feeling, and I ended up getting sick myself and didn't...
Wait. Clarify that. Not cancer sick.
Not cancer
Thank
sick,
you.
no.
Let's level it out.
Not level it out.
Better problem to have.
Yeah, better problem to have. But I had all kinds of different stress-related illnesses during her cancer experience and then for years and years afterwards because I wasn't taking care of myself. My mom, as she was going through it, she was hurt, she was angry, she was scared, she was all of the things. And, for her, she's very private. She wasn't going to sit in a support group. It wasn't the right fit for her. It's a wonderful way of, getting and giving support. It just wasn't right for her. And she didn't, from her generation, professional mental health services, it still has a stigma to it. So that wasn't the right fit for her either. Nobody told us that this type of support was available. And I didn't know about it until I was through this experience with her. She was living in post-treatment survivorship, not well. She had a lot of, issues in post-treatment survivorship because she didn't get the support she needed. And I saw this job posting for Cancer Hope Network. I was like, I don't know what that is, but it's 12 miles from my house. I'll check it out. And
this was before the pandemic.
This was before the pandemic. This was in 2019.
When location mattered.
When location did matter very much. And I looked them up and I saw what the mission was. And it was like this light went off for me. This is where I should be. This is the universe calling in on those promises that I made when I was sitting in the hospital. And it fit. So I joined the organization in a fundraising capacity. And then a couple of years ago, at the end of 2022, I was made executive director. And it's become more than a job. It really feels like it's my life's work. I'm very passionate about it. I love this organization. And I feel very proud to represent the caregiver community in my role in this leadership position at the organization in an advocacy space, and also, just to give voice to people who don't have the voice through people like Marielle, who joined our team as our program director.
So my question for you, Marielle, this happened to me all the time with stupid cancer, like to the point, like, I don't know why this happened, but it kept happening. Every time we were looking to hire somebody during the interview process, they always asked, do I have to have cancer to work here? I was like, no, it's better if you don't.
Absolutely.
Not a requisite. Maybe a nice to have under the table, but still,
Yeah.
you know, and yet you fit the bill for
I
both
fit the
of
bill
them.
for so many things.
So let's go back in time for you. So again, I'm going to just channel all of my work in AYA. We barely had any people from, I'm just going to say it wrong, Hispanic land? I don't know. What should I be saying? What are the
Whatever. I will give you the opportunity to say whatever you want.
Your people
My
were
people.
very few and far between in the AYA world, and maybe that's true across all ages, despite the fact that we knew the rates were akin to normal statistics. Is it cultural? What is that about?
I wish that I had that answer. It's been very hard to find. Specifically, let me speak for myself. I don't have any family predisposition to colorectal cancer. I am like a shiny penny in a box because in so many ways.
And then some.
I am. So, and the reason being, there's already very little data within the clinical research space or just overall health information that pertains to the Hispanic Latino population. We just are overall very underserved, like even below African Americans in the United States. With the influx in immigration, we still lack the data and the numbers behind what patients are affected. For me, stepping into the AYA space as a colorectal patient diagnosed in 2017, when I was going through all of the medical journals, trying to find statistics on what my late stage diagnosis was going to end up looking like, it was very challenging to find anything that personally aligned with my culture and my ethnicity. I was 36.
Okay.
And I found my cancer by complete accident. However, I couldn't find myself in the clinical research and the clinical data that promised me some kind of like positive outlook. I just knew that AYA patients, typically I was either going to stay on cancer, like chemo forever, I was going to end up dying. That was what my demographic looked like back in 2017. And now like AYA colorectal cancer is something that's become very prevalent within our community.
All right. Let's take a quick break.
Yes.
With this special ad from white guys that are learning how to say Latino Hispanic.
I love it.
All right. We'll be right back. I don't know what ads they heard. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. We'll see. But please go on, because I've always been perturbed because, you know, when and you've learned this as a nonprofit leader, Beth, you want to help as many people as you can, but you have to help as many people as is available to be helped. And like, why can't we reach these communities? We know they're sick. We knew who was coming to our conferences. We knew who was showing up. We saw the skin colors. We knew they just weren't there. So you're kind of confirming this for me.
Yeah. I also feel that the access is not very evenly distributed, especially with minorities of color, whether you're black, white, orange, purple.
I want those purple people.
I love the purple
people. Are those
people.
the Smurfs?
I know.
Actually, they're blue.
They're blue. They're the blue.
Purple people eaters. It's almost Halloween.
But you also have to look at demographic wise. There is very oftentimes within the Hispanic Latino population, there are a lot that are underinsured. Some of them are not even insured at all due to their current immigration status, but that's a topic for a different day. However, those are some of the things that definitely do impact. We have very little access to care. When I was an interpreter, I lived in the labor and delivery unit because we would be completely slammed. Very few people in oncology, but I did fall in love with 2 oncology patients that literally, like, they made me want to be in oncology for the rest of my life. And starting out as an interpreter and kind of like going to nursing school and getting all the knowledge and experience that has led me here.
Yeah, we should add, you are a nurse.
Yeah. So I just like, you know, I love being able to use all of the pearls of wisdoms that I've gained along the way to be able to better serve my community, both the Hispanic Latino population, but also the regular everyday American cancer population.
So first question is always, not the first question, let me say that again. So the obvious question I always ask is, when did you learn you weren't alone?
Honestly, it wasn't until I was in survivorship. It
Really?
was, yeah. So when I was initially diagnosed, there were no young onset patients in my cancer center. I was the first young onset patient, even at 36, that my oncologist had ever diagnosed. Same for my GI. When I had my colonoscopy, my nurse, my blood pressure was through the roof. And she was like, what are you so scared about? I'm like, oh, I'm scared I'm going to wake up and I have cancer. She's like, we've never diagnosed anybody your age. She's like, you're not going to be the first one. And sure enough, when I woke up from my scope, she was like crying with my mom.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was, So, so I kind of already knew that there was something wrong there, but it's just, I was very fortunate to run into an AYA specific group in Charleston where I live, and they were my saving grace. However, there was nobody there with colon cancer. Everyone had breast. And then there were a couple, there was like a thyroid and a pediatric osteosarcoma patient. So I was still all alone in that. Then it wasn't until I was done that I knew that peer support existed via a particular cancer organization that focused just on my cancer. And I was livid. And it wasn't until I was hired there that I knew that there were other people there.
Right.
I was very fortunate that I became very close with another survivor that worked there. And we were able to kind of, she was really wonderful to me in helping me navigate my survivorship and all of that. But it wasn't until after survivorship that I knew that I was not alone. It's sad.
Well, it is sad. It took you 7
And
years
angry.
too. Yeah.
God, I mean, and even sitting here almost 8 years out, I am like, what a disservice. I get into fights at conferences, verbal altercation.
Really? Tell me more.
With oncologists that come up and present about the importance of, them connecting patients with other patients in their clinic. And I'm like, there are organizations such as ours that provide this service for free, that we can tell you and attest to how wonderful it is for the psychosocial support and, well-being of a patient. And I'm like, and yet you choose to do nothing. And they just look at you. I'm just like, okay. I'm like, here's my card. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, I'll call you.
All right. In defense of doctors, Beth.
Yes.
Is it fair to expect doctors to be your navigators?
Oh, absolutely not.
That was to Beth. Who are you?
I'm her director.
She's my director of programs and advocacy. No, it's not fair. It's not fair to expect the doctors to be our navigators, which is why I guess they're putting in patient navigators into place.
Yes.
A much needed and obviously a huge gap that's existed in this cancer world that we live in. So we're relying on navigators a little bit more heavily now. We're really lucky to have navigators amongst us and, with the partner hospitals that we work with. We believe as an organization, I believe personally, that offering this type of support multiple times during a person's journey is really important. We can't assume that somebody needs support at that moment of diagnosis. We can't assume they need it, during treatment. Maybe it's in that post-treatment survivorship phase that they need it. Maybe it's when they go for their first genetic test that they need it. It's everybody has their own experience. Everybody's needs are different, and that point in time when they need it is different. And Cancer Hope Network is an organization. We provide support through the entire continuum of care. Working with patient navigators allows us to offer this service at all of these different points, and they understand what those points look like and when people might need to hear it.
One of the most interesting points of feedback I ever got, and I've told the story before, like you're shopping in the shit happens store, you don't want to be there. But this was very specific and very unique to this conversation, which is I was at Hopkins at a survivorship conference, and I ran into a young nurse who was a survivor who was working there with the teen group. And she had not heard of stupid cancer, which is fine. Like, I'm not like, how do you not know who it was fine. Everything was fine.
I didn't learn about them until this year, mind you.
Well, that's fine. Like, again, but she said, I didn't know the group existed. It's nice to know they're there, but I'm not ready for it. So that spoke to me a lot, which is like, it's not for everybody, but you have the right to know it exists.
Absolutely.
Right.
And is it really a right? Is it a liberty? Is it freedom? Like we talk about this intervention concept there, where sorry you're in the store, here's 40 things for you, but do you want to get bombarded or you just want to deal with you right now?
I agree with that. However, I feel there's great prejudice within the resources that are provided to patients, because if you go into any cancer center and you look at the table full of resources, 90% of those resources are going to be breast cancer oriented. There is nothing about support group because if it clashes with a cancer center, they're not putting it out there. So while the doctor the oncologist should not be our navigator, overall cancer centers should do a better due diligence in sharing resource information to all their patients, whether they want it or not.
I also think it's a financial issue in the nonprofit space. So there's so many incredible nonprofit organizations doing work to help people, to provide support in different ways to people who are going through cancer. Nobody wants to fund the marketing pieces that you need, those shiny pieces that are sitting on the table in the cancer center. Nobody wants to provide funding for those pieces that you really need. They don't want to provide support for the staff that does the work. And
now we're doing nonprofit therapy.
Right. But I mean, that is, at the end of the day, making sure that the resources are there for the organizations doing this work to have the tools they need to reach the patients, whether it's, and the caregivers for that matter, whether it's the physical tools that are sitting on the table in the cancer center, or whether it's the human resources to provide the support and to get the word out in a way that's meaningful.
Well, I'll do one better from a retro perspective. So in the early 2000s, before the internet, whatever resources were there were in physical paper form in a library.
Right.
So everything you needed to know was actually at the cancer center in a literal library. Every organization had flyers and rack cards and posters and pamphlets and stickers and all that. They were all there.
Yeah.
And now we went digital, and there's no like one QR code that lists everything.
That's true. That's true. And the problem, though, now I sit on my town's library board, so I am a huge fan of libraries. But the problem is, whether it's a digital library or a physical library, expecting somebody who is going through cancer to sort through all of that information, it's adding another burden. So who's the librarian?
Yeah, bingo. Marielle's the librarian.
Yep. Right.
Are you now? I just appointed you the librarian.
I love it. I'm very nerdy. I told Beth all the time, I was like, so I want to learn about this. She's like, do you have the bandwidth? I was like, I will find a way. Like, I do. I take that title with pride.
I mean, I was once told it's a liability issue for the hospitals to talk to patients about resources because then they're on the hook for the resource not helping the patient.
I can see that.
So we're screwed either way.
Yeah.
True.
It's a double-edged sword in so many capacities.
So you found Colon Cancer Alliance by happenstance.
Yes. I was, I never missed a day of work when I was in treatment, and I got fired the day before I was eligible for FMLA. So
What?
Yeah. So I had like about 4 treatments left. And while I was sorting out Cobra, my husband and I agreed, it's like, we're just going to grin and bear it. I'm going to just stay off working. And then once I'm done, we'll find work. So I was like, all right. So
Wait. You got to say that you were fired the day before Family Medical Leave Act kicked in.
Yeah. And that day that I got fired, I had
You kind of glazed over that. No, we have to focus on this.
The day I was fired, I had my first of 3 like severe anaphylaxis reactions to my chemotherapy. My nurse walked by and I was sneezing, and it was like hot mess. My husband, the one day he left me to go run errands that I begged him to go do for me, I almost died while he was in Walmart. So they called me from HR that day, and they were like, hey, do you have time? I was like, I'm literally getting ready to get wheeled to the ER. Like I'm almost dying this morning. And they're like, well, we're just letting you know that we're letting you go.
Oh God.
And it went down from there. So yeah, it was. So I found in the midst of my hiatus, I was looking for work, and I was like, well, I want to do something more intentional in the cancer space. I'm bilingual. I have an MHA, like all these things. And as I was closing down my browser, I found this bilingual patient navigator job posting, and I applied for it. I begged my boss to hire me. She's like, I can afford you. And I was like, yes, you can. I was like, you're hiring me. And 6 years later, I was there, and it was a great experience.
So we're not talking about another nonprofit organization, which is fine. They're not competitive in the sense, but Colon Cancer Alliance does exist. I've been aware of them. They were at Livestrong 20,000 years ago with us.
Yep. Yeah.
And they were important from a vertical perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And you made colon cancer friends.
I did. I love my colon cancer friends. I've lost a great deal of colon cancer friends.
That happens.
So making the decision, there were a lot of things that went into play, but being able to move out of a singular cancer setting into a pan-cancer setting, I absolutely loved. But I was getting to do peer support 100% of my time instead of, patient navigation and managing a national peer support program. It started taking an emotional and mental toll on me. Like I started becoming very toxic and callous. So I initially fought with my first boss, convinced her to hire me. I had a fight with Beth to think that I wasn't a fake AI person when I applied for the job. She is like, it was hilarious. I literally looked at it. I saw it on LinkedIn and I went to apply and my page went blank. And then I couldn't find it for 2 weeks. And then I found it again. And I applied, I sent my resume, and within 2 minutes, Beth had a message from me. I had a message from Beth, and she's like, can you send a message to your resume or a cover letter to such and such? And I was like, okay.
Wait,
be fair.
Fact check.
To be fair, I thought she was AI as well because she too perfectly fit what we were looking for.
Almost to a T.
So I thought she was fake. She thought I was fake. So I responded right away because I thought it was AI and I was just trying to weed out the junk. So we got a good laugh about that.
So then the individual who I was told to send this cover letter and resume to, emails me because it had been like an hour. I was like, so I'm like, hi, I was volunteered into covering an ostomy support chat. I was like, as soon as I am done, I will send this over to you. She's like, oh, okay. So I could just imagine her going back to Beth and she's like, either she's fake or she's doing some support. I don't even know what the conversations were, but
AI Ostomy is my new band name.
I love ostomies. I don't have one. I've had a friend that has one, and I like the volunteers.
Did you just say you love ostomies?
Oh my God, I think they're phenomenal.
Really?
Yes.
Go on.
I used to have a very huge phobia when I was I had my resection surgery. I was prepared for everything. I was 3B colon, sigmoid, so it was like barely right above my rectum, and a nurse came in and she marked my stomach as literally I was getting wheeled out to the OR. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, in case you need an ostomy. And I lost my crap. I was like, oh my God.
That seemed very callous way to say that.
Well, I had prepared and studied for everything. I even studied the surgery that I was going to have. That's how I am not
surprised.
Pause because you're getting in the way of my next question, which is when the nurse gets cancer. Go.
Yeah. So it sucks because this is not the time where ignorance is bliss. But on top of that, at the time that I was diagnosed, I was a national hospice administrator. So I knew what the end game of my diagnosis on my staging was. I had plan A, B, C, and D ready to go by the time I rolled into that surgery. So and it also stunk because
you could say that. Have you met me?
I know, but I have very fragrant choices of words. I'm trying to be very
some Southern manners too to deal with.
I know. So the Southern Latin is like, we'll talk about it in a minute. So it's like,
stay tuned, folks.
But so in all honesty, the nurse that was taking care of me in my pre-op room actually was an ER nurse from the hospital that I previously worked at.
Wow.
Then the anesthesia, so they moved her off my case because my surgeon was like, no. Then the entire anesthesia group were now attendings at this hospital that I worked with as residents in the hospital previously where they were doing the residency. So, and Beth will attest to this, somehow I have like a weird 3 degrees of separation with almost everybody I meet.
She's Kevin Bacon.
I approve this message.
But it's like, so I knew all these people. However, it was great because I trusted very well, and blindly my entire medical team, but being able to prepare for the outcomes of what I was about to embark on was challenging. My husband was like, you do not speak in medical jargon around me. My surgeon was from Spain. He's like, you are not allowed to speak in Spanish to him. Well, yeah, my husband's like, you are not hiding anything from me. We had very hard lines that we drew. And even my mom could not speak in Spanish to my surgeon if my husband was in the room. Because he was like, you're going to hide things from me. And he's like, we're not doing that.
Wait, so you both married up?
Yeah, absolutely. We sure did.
He's a good man.
He is a good man. He's a good keeper. I keep him forever.
All right. So let's start to wrap up the show because I want to get to when people find Cancer Hope Network. If right? They find, which we want to avoid them
Yeah.
having to hope they find it one day.
But I hope they do.
Again, it's a hope network. So we hope you find the hope network.
Yeah.
I'm making up words here. What do they find? Beth, we know what you do. What do they get?
Connection.
To whom?
To somebody who has walked a similar path. So we provide one-on-one peer mentorship, which means you get connected with somebody who has been through a similar experience. That can be based on your diagnosis, it can be based on treatment, or it can be based on a whole host of psychosocial factors. So it might be looking to connect with somebody who is working through treatment like Marielle did, or it could be somebody who is going through cancer and having to navigate that as a single parent. Somebody like myself who was a caregiver and kind of part of that sandwich generation, trying to care for a parent while caring for their children and being all of the labels that we give ourselves at the same time. Whatever the needs of the support seeker are, we make connection based on those needs. So it's connection.
Marielle, have you encountered other Latino Hispanic patients who didn't know there were other people like you to talk to in native language?
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's very sad because of the excitement that they show when I tell them that there is a program kind of like this. It is sad because they're like, I joined so many support groups just wanting to talk to someone in my own language. They didn't even care if it was the same cancer. Just to be able to talk to someone and just say, hey, God, today is hard. And just having somebody say, I got you. It's like, I love that regardless of what language you speak, we get to step in and be champions for you. Like, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to know, what your outcome is going to be, which we would like for you to know. Eventually, that's a good thing for patients to know. But it's like, you don't have to have all the answers. You show up as yourself. And it's like, our mentors are so wonderful about meeting the needs of the patients and caregivers that they serve just by showing up and sharing their personal experiences and just saying, hey, I've got you. Let me teach you how to advocate for yourself. I mean, peer support is absolutely wonderful.
So when the new people come and they're matched with the existing database of people, do then they become people in the database who get matched again to new people?
No. Our mentors go through an intentional intake process. So people who are mentors with our program, we require that they're at least 1 year post-treatment. If they have metastatic disease, that they're stable on maintenance therapies, or that they're at least 1 year out of active caregiving. And then Marielle and our programs team go through a process where they vet each person to make sure that they're in the right space to provide this type of support to somebody else, because just because somebody rang the gong and said you're cancer free or you're now in remission doesn't mean you're not still going through that experience. So we want to make sure that our program is safe for the person that is seeking support and also for the person that's giving support. So it's not a cyclical thing. We do love when people have come to us for support, recognize the value, and then come back when the time is right to be mentors for our program. And we do have so many people in that position with our program, but it's not an automatic process.
Well, the weirdest thing I get told is congratulations on beating cancer.
And you get a pat in the back and it's like, go figure it out.
Yeah, so congratulations on beating cancer. Marielle McLeod is
Thank
the
you.
Program and Advocacy Director at Cancer Hope Network. And Beth Blakey, ED, you're surviving nonprofit leadership.
Oh, good Lord. Yes. Thank you.
And Edelman.
Yeah.
With your BA in English.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you for
us.
having us.
All right, we'll see you next time, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Out of Patience with Matthew Zachary is a production of Matthew Zachary Worldwide. The executive producer is Matthew Zachary. It is mixed and edited by Kyle Moore. If you like the show, ratings and reviews are always welcome wherever you get your podcasts. If you have guest suggestions or would like to learn more about sponsorship opportunities, email podcast@matthewzachary.com. For more information about Matthew Zachary and Matthew Zachary Worldwide, visit matthewzachary.com.